Welcome to the Dream Plan Start Grow Show, where the goal is to provide you tips and tools to create and execute your business plan for success. Welcome back to the Dream Plan Start Grow Show. My name is Allison Turner. I started these interviews about a year ago because I really love entrepreneurship, and I believe that each of us can learn from another. So whether you're brand new to business, you've started a business, or even a seasoned business owner, I find that each of these shows is different, and even the seasoned business owner can learn from some of my guests and what's being shared here. So today I'm honored to have with me Paul Finck, who is also known as the Maverick Millionaire. He's one of the foremost authorities in business and personal development today. His mission is to guide you to reach your ultimate goals and dreams by sharing his vast array of skill sets acquired over 30 years of sales, marketing, and entrepreneurial experience, so you can become all you were always meant to be. So welcome, Paul. I appreciate your time and coming on as a guest today.
Thank you so much, Allison, for having me here. It is an absolute pleasure. Looking forward to sharing with the audience and with all of you where my journey has been over. Now it's almost 40 years that I've been
that
an
bio
entrepreneur.
Then.
Yeah. So, every time you want to make it easy for people. And I've started right out of college as an entrepreneur. So it's been now 36 years right out of college. I did the fast track, never worked for anybody a day in my life.
Really?
Always been that entrepreneurial, straight commission sales, or running my own ship every step of the way.
Huh. So what did you come out of college doing? I don't think I knew that about you.
So I went to college for a psychology degree. I was going to become a clinical psychologist, and went through, got my degree. And as I was going through, I did an internship with a partial hospitalization program, started interviewing people that were actually using it in the real world, and realized, need another 8 to 12 years of schooling. Oh, but wait a second. What I really am fascinated with meant that I was going to be on 24-hour suicide watch. I was going to be taking care of people that were really in need, which is the great part of it. However, the rewards with all that responsibility, the rewards were another 8 to 12 years of schooling and about $30,000 to $40,000 in pay. And that's when, and I went, maybe I want to do something different. And I started taking a ton of business classes when I was still in college. And when I graduated with a psychology degree and trained to be in clinical psychology. However, I went right into business, went right into straight commission sales. And so I went into the medical field for about 10 years, dental field as well, sold and distributed almost everything there is in both of those fields, from cotton rolls to lasers and everything in between, all with joint ventures with being manufacturer repping, distributions, having my own distribution companies, and it taught me a ton. However, right out of college, started off within 1 year, had 7 salespeople working for me. It was pretty dramatic and stepped right into it. Talk about, wow. I look back and go, how did I have the guts to do what I did?
Right.
And 2, the realization that I knew nothing. And there was so much of that rookie syndrome that I just dared to step up and create the mayhem and dared to live with the consequences, all while I was learning. And that was so much of my 20s.
That's fascinating, because I think about back to my times of 20s, and you're trying to figure out what you wanted to do, and do you want to do this or that? And I know I didn't have the guts. That wasn't anywhere in my radar of thinking of like, let me just go work for myself somewhere. But how did you have the confidence? And then what, did you have entrepreneurial people in your family, parents,
No.
grandparents, any of those? Or like, how did you have the confidence to come out of school and be like, I'm just going to go work for myself. I'm not going to
in reflection, and some of the people here in the audience will relate and resonate with this, is that in reflection, I look back and go, oh man, I must have been really confident. I must have had really great guts to go forward. The truth of the matter was that I was just so anti-authority that there wasn't any choice. And so kind of explains my branding of Maverick nowadays, is that I was definitely, I'm not going to be told what to do. Don't tell me leave me alone. I'm going to go do this on my own because I don't want to listen to you. And that was really where the guts and everything that other people look at and go, oh, look at the confidence and the guts. It was really, I'm not working for them, so I got to figure out something else.
Yeah, but it still takes, I mean, regardless of what you just said, I mean, it still takes confidence. It still takes, guts, and it still takes, I mean, balls really to like go out and be like, yeah, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm not going to work for anyone else. And I'm still going to make a decent amount of money.
Right.
I have an 18-year-old stepdaughter at home, and, that's, even though she's talked about starting a business down the road, but, it's not on the radar right this second, and she's 18, probably not going to do college right this second, at least, because she's too enthralled with making the money to do other things. So, but I think, there's just something that drives someone like yourself. Were you in athletics at all? Were you in other, goal-focused activities that maybe gave you some kind of background?
Not as much. And I will say that, the first goal was, listen, I'm not going to listen. I'm going to do it my own way, and I'm going to figure it out. What I learned early on, and this is a mantra that I've had for a long time, that I've now realized that's what I was doing, and now it's a absolute, is say yes first and figure it out second.
Yeah.
And so many people get in the game or want to get in the game, and they're like, yeah, I want to do that. And as soon as I map it out, as soon as I figure things out, as soon as I've got it all laid out, I'm doing it, man. I'm going to do it. And instead, when from early on, I just started saying yes, and I said yes, and then said, all right, now I'm committed. Now what do I do? And figured out the next step. I was in straight commission sales, and I had figured out how to do this. I was in the medical field, and the company that I was working with, that was paying straight commission, so I was submitting my business to this one company. Well, they went out of business. And they went out of business abruptly. They were actually investigated by the feds, and they got shut down. So now I was in this position where there was a whole bunch of people that were kind of now didn't know what to do, didn't have a home. And yet my thought was, well, if they've got nowhere else to go, I'll just build a platform so that they can come be with me. And that was one of my first major companies. Is I started a company so that all these other people that were kind of lost sheep from this company that had closed down suddenly now were reporting to me. And I was 22 going into 23.
Wow.
And I just said yes. And in that thought, like, oh, well, they need a home, I'll create a home. And in that way, within 2 weeks, I created a business for the first time, created a business, created an LLC, created a flyer, a brand, a logo, and flyers for them to be able to distribute and sell from the marketing material that I created, all within 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
And it was with the seed of thought and then saying, well, let's do that. What do I have to lose? And so many people go into their life with, oh my gosh, I need to protect. I need to hold on to. And one of the key components to think about, especially for the people that are the younger people here, and we see it on both spectrums, the younger ones that when I was young, I just said, hey, what do I have to lose? So many people today go, oh no, I can't lose. I can't give this. I was like, what are you protecting? You own nothing. You have no assets. You have a couple $1,000s in the bank, and you're afraid of losing all what? All that?
Right.
Risk it all. You'll be able to make it up in a month.
Yeah.
Even when you lose it all and start all over again. And so that understanding early on, that seed of thought of what do I have to lose is really key. And especially when you're younger and you have nothing, risk it all because you can replace nothing really quick.
With more nothing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that, because that's so foreign to me because I was not that person back in my 20s. I was that person of like, oh, let me go do this. And even though I worked in social services, so it's not like I was making a lot of money because I wasn't. I was going down that psychology route without the higher level degree. But I probably was more that than, where you said you were as far as saying yes. I'm more in the saying yes mode now, but it took me years to get here. And even earlier when I started this business with a business partner back in probably about 10 years ago. And we were very different, didn't belong in business together, figured that out when we got in business together. And so that didn't, that lasted all of maybe a year or two where we were in business together. And then I kind of bought her out of the company and took it over. And then I was like, oh crap, now I got to close sales because I was more the person that networked and I would bring, potential clients in. And then she was a great closer. Right. So that's how I did it. And then I was like, oh, I guess I have to eat. So I'm going to figure out how to close these sales because I'm like, I guess I got to figure this out. But I've always been that planner that you talked about, that person that, let me just, before I launch this, let me put all these pieces together. And so now I'm like, okay, well, that's good enough. And I really launched this podcast to get Jack, who you've met, to launch his flippin' TV show, which he still hasn't launched for that same reason. Because I'm just like, I launched this because I had launched a podcast in 2020, but it was just me speaking and it was audio only. And I did about 6 episodes. And then I relaunched this a year ago. And I think I release an episode like once a week. So I think I've done 52 or 53 episodes that I've released. But he still hasn't launched the TV. I'm like, just launch something. I said, and then you can add to it. Like, it doesn't have to be like the perfect thing, like right when you launch it and that's what you want. Like, just start with this piece of it and then add to it. Right. And then, eventually you get the show you want. But for some reason that's a challenge, but I used to be more on his side of things. I'm like, oh, I can't do this yet. Like, it's just not there yet. So, but
I got focused. I got focused early on that. On one is say yes and step into it. Just do it. And the second is getting focused in on exactly what you want. And that's really key. Most people don't know what they want. I go on stages and I speak all around the world and mostly in the United States from coast to coast. And as I get on stage and I talk to people, I'm like, all right, so what do you want? And everyone raises their hand. Oh yeah, I want financial freedom. I want abundance. I want to be able to be rich. And I said, well, you ask 100 people what's rich mean. Right. What's that look like? There's 100 different answers. What does financial freedom mean? 100 different answers. What's security mean? 100 different answers. And so you've got to get really clear. The universe will deliver to you exactly what you want. Only when you tell it a vague notion of what you want, it's going to deliver to you a vague notion of your life. Right. And that is really key. And so getting clarity. What do you want? Do you want $1 million? Do you want a podcast? Do you want a TV show? Do you want a coaching program? What does that look like? How many clients? How much money do you want to be bringing in a month? Get really granular with the details. Once you decide what you want, you've got to have a strong why you want it. And that's the rest of the story, is the motivation. It's like, I want $1 million. And everyone says that. I want $1 million. Are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to put forth the effort? Are you willing to put forth the sacrifice to do whatever it takes to create that $1 million? When the answer is on a scale of 1 to 10, well, about an 8, or even a 9, give it up. Just go home, go back to a job, go back to whatever you think you had before. It's not going to happen. And all those goals and dreams are never going to come into fruition. You've got to want what you want at a level 10.
Right.
A commitment level of a level 10, which means you'll do whatever it takes. And I add, some people argue with me, so I add a few things. Legal, morally, and ethically, you'll do whatever it takes to create that goal, to achieve what you want to achieve.
Right.
I didn't get that last part until I had some dramatic events in my life. Early on, I was playing, I was saying yes, I was stepping into it. Only the results part were scattered, were unfocused. And so I was getting some good results, some bad, but it was all over the place. And I didn't really care. I was having fun and I was going through the process. Mm-hmm. Well, then I had a dramatic, and you don't need to have these dramatic events in your life, only it certainly helps as a catalyst. For me, it was having children. And I have 6 children. I have 3 sets of twins. and so
I forgot about that.
With 3 sets of twins, 6 children, we had 6 children under 6 years old when the last set were born.
Oh.
And so we were absolutely now almost overnight. The last 2 sets are 14 months apart. So almost overnight, I went from being okay. I was making about 100,000, having fun, just creating some things here and there and doing my stuff, to, oh my gosh, I'm bankrupt. Like, it was overnight. Wow. The magnitude of bills that were coming in, the magnitude of expenses and taking care of 6 children was a dramatic shift. And that's when I got really clear. That's when I realized I needed to step up my game. I needed to focus in on results. I needed to get really clear on what my 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan was, rather than just kind of winging it. And that was a catalyst for me. And so go back now my youngest is 21. They're just graduating from college. 22 is the second, and 27 is the third set. And so we've gone through the test of time over the last 20 years, shifted everything in my life, created abundance, got into real estate, got into understanding finances and wealth building, became a realtor, a mortgage broker, real estate investor, had a huge portfolio, kept moving forward. People started tapping on my shoulder. How did you build this portfolio? In a couple of years, I had somewhere around $5 to $10 million in real estate. And all this was happening very quickly. And people were like, how did you do this? And that's when I got into coaching. People started tapping me to train them, to help them out with their stuff and move forward. So now that's been about 16, 17 years now in the coaching space, helping people build abundance, helping people realize they too can do this. They can take control of their life. They can take control of their future and create anything that they want. Only they've got to want it. They've got to commit to it. They've got to be willing to do the work that it takes to make it happen. And yet it's the best journey in the world that I know of.
Yeah.
So you don't need to have 6 children. You do need to have the desire and the why to create and go forth in the journey. And that's what I did. And it really has served me, being clear on my why, my passionate relationship with my wife, who we started dating 36 years ago, my relationships with my children and how amazing they are. They're some of my best testimonials. And to now be working with people all around the world in helping them create that abundance.
Oh, that's fabulous. I've completely forgot about the 3 sets of twins. I remember you saying that a couple of years ago, and then I forgot. Funny thing is, I had lunch with a friend of mine who's pregnant with twins. This is probably her only 2 children. But she's in her
You
30s,
never know.
So.
You never
well, I
know.
know. She says it's her only two. I think her husband's got some different, aspirations there, but so
It'll happen.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to tell her now. That be like, yeah, my guest has 3 sets of twins. So because she knew I was getting ready to film this. So, but how do you? So you said you have to be all in, and you have to be that 10, not the 9, not the 8. Sometimes I run into some of our younger generation today. It doesn't sound like maybe your kids are in this generation, but some of the younger, like the 18 to young adult. Let's just say that.
Yep.
And some of them aren't so focused. So they may want, you see on social media all the time, they may want the millions of dollars, but the focus to get there and maybe the why, maybe they don't have the why. Maybe that's why it's not a 10 at this point in time.
Right.
But, what would you say to someone that's young that, wants that lifestyle, but maybe just isn't quite clear on, how to really focus in on it?
Yeah, unfortunately, I do believe that we've done a disservice to some of the younger generation. And the younger generation, we've told them that they don't need to work hard. They don't need to strive for achievement, that everyone must win, that everyone must get an award just because they showed up, and that demotivates people. Creates an environment where as long as I show up, I'm going to get everything I need. I don't have to actually focus in or work or do anything with intentionality. I just need to show up. And not even that. And I still get an award.
It drives me nuts. That I'm a sports person, so I grew up playing tennis and when that started, I'm just like, what is this? Like, what do you mean everyone gets a medal?
Tennis with no scoring. Yeah.
Oh,
and there's a point where you go, well, what are we doing? And so with that, so many of our younger generation are in that scope of, I'm just going to wing life and it'll be fine. And the people around them, they're in psychology, we used to call this codependent personality type. And a codependent personality type is, it's okay. You don't have to do anything. I'll take care of you.
Right.
And so you're disabled. And I say that with respect, that the younger generation, if they're not focused, they're not moving forward, they're not actually digging deep in getting clarity with what they want and working towards it.
Right.
That's a disability compared to someone who is.
Yeah.
And with that, they are now have people around them that support that end up feeding them, housing them, taking care of them long into, I know people that have their 30 and 40-year-olds living with them because God knows, they're still finding their way. And I can't even imagine. And that is part of it. And so helping them to be really clear with, you do not have a direction, you do not have a focus, you do not have a goal, chances are you will get exactly that. You will get a life that has no focus, no direction, no goal, no achievement, and you'll end up with very little. Is that what you want?
Right.
I am not here to tell people how to live their life. I'm here to tell people exactly what behavior X will deliver to them 5-10 years down the road.
Yeah.
And that's what I map out for people. And so when they come to me, and this happens with people at every stage, people come to me and say, well, I've been working for, the corporate world for the last 20 years. And yes, really love this path. This is what I'm going to do. This is the direction that I'm going to take. And in 10 years, I'm going to retire. I say, great. How much money will you have in your pension fund, saved up in your savings at that time? And they tell me a number. I said, great. How much money do you spend per year? They tell me that number. I then map out. I said, without doing anything different, you will be homeless at X number of years. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
You could invest it. You could make a 10% return. And one thing after another, your principal will diminish until the point where you've got nothing. In which case, you've got to either accept that you're going to be homeless and not be able to feed yourself, or die.
Jeez.
And those are your choices.
Right.
And I'm not playing games. Here's the numbers. I'll map out all the math for them. And so you can either make a change today to create a new world, to create a new destiny for yourself that has passive income coming in, active income of something that you can really continue and do and enjoy for the next 30, 40, 50 years, or accept the fate of where you are now and what that's going to lead you to in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Right.
And that's a clarity that at every age, people don't get into that conversation about. They don't have anyone in their arena to actually tell them, this is the truth of your future. Yeah. Do you want to face it now or later? It's up to you. It's your life. Right. It's not mine. I'm good.
Yeah.
And that's what I did with my own world. And what I do for so many people now is just sit down and map it out. What do you want to accomplish in the next, where do you want to be, more importantly, in 10 years from now? What's your lifestyle? What do you want to enjoy? How do you want to live? Unless you're doing, whatever you do today is going to lead to that result in 10 years from now. So are you doing the things today that'll lead you to the place that you want to be in 10 years?
Right.
When you're not, you must accept you're not going to be there in 10 years. So if you want to be a influencer with a podcast and a TV show, like you were talking about your friend, whatever he does today will lead to that in, let's say, 5 years.
Right.
Or he needs to accept he will not be there in 5 years from now, period. Yeah. And that's just a realistic truthism that for him to say, you're right, I accept I will not be. Okay, clear.
Right.
Or you want to be? Let's get busy today. Let's do the thing today that'll create the life we really want. There's an old expression, give me 5 years. Give me 5 years doing what most people will never do. I will give you the rest of your life being able to do what most people never get a chance to do. This is really key. I remember I started down that path and saying, 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. And I remember I was actually teaching it. One day I had a slide up that said that exact quote, and I was teaching it to an audience, and I all of a sudden realized and started doing the dance right on stage because I was in year 6.
Oh, wow.
And the freedom that I felt internally, because I knew I never would have to look back.
Yeah.
I would never have to reflect on, why didn't I do it? I had gone the distance, and for the rest of my life, I'd be able to do what I wanted because I had built the foundation to build skyscrapers on, to build an empire on. And I knew that because I had done what I had to do over that first 5 years.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people, and I've done this myself, feel like, I don't have enough time, and I think if you think about, just take, there's a couple of things that I don't always like to do. So I've segmented 18 minutes a day for each of those things. Cause I'm like, I need at least 2 hours to do this, and I'm like, no, you really don't need 2 hours. You could just go in and do 18 minutes a day. But if you do 18 minutes every day, now you got your 2 hours, in a few days. So, and I think sometimes people get in that mode of, hey, I need time. And I have these existing clients that they're trying to create passive income, for example. I have existing clients over here and I got to work over here. So I don't really have that, extra hour, what does spend 15 minutes, 18 minutes a day? And then, all that adds up. And so you're still moving towards your ultimate goal, but you're just not, maybe you don't have the hour a day. And maybe some days you do have it. So you go over your 18 minutes and do the hour. Right. And then some minutes you're just going to stop right at that 18 minutes because you got to go back to other stuff.
That can be attributed to everything. And a great point. I've read books, for instance, in that way, just 10 minutes a day. Yeah. And I look back, it's like, all right, I got a master's just by doing 10 minutes a day. And it's understanding that how to chunk things down and those little just bite-sized pieces, and all of a sudden you've eaten the whole elephant, if you will.
Right.
And how to break down the major tasks. The reality is that so many people say they don't have the time, and yet in 5 years, and I've had people do this, where no, this is going to take too much time, Paul. I don't have the time now. I need it today. I can't spend 5 years. And then guess what? I've been doing this now for 16 years. I've been here to watch the people cycle over again.
Yeah.
And so the same people will show up in front of me 5 years later. And then I'm allowed to tell them, because I told them, I'm allowed to tell them,
I told you so.
The clock's still ticking. You're 5 years later. Are you where you thought you'd be in 5 years? Inevitably, the answer is no.
Yeah.
One of my great students right now, she actually delayed in engaging with me for 4 years. Like, I knew her through a networking group, and she kept saying, "Oh, no, I'm not ready," and kept resisting. And then she finally, after 4 years, showed up in my event. Now, and not only didn't she succeed, things actually got worse for her over those 4 years. And then, now, why do things get worse over time? Because if you don't take care of it, it festers and grows. So the worst in your life will actually take over.
Yeah.
So you've got to approach it. Nothing gets better over time when you leave it alone and you don't take care of it. So it festered and grew, and it got worse. She got into kind of hanging out with us, spending time. Now it's 4 years later. Mm-hmm. Completely different person. Built up 2 different businesses, got another business that she was able to close down that she had been working with her parents, and went from $50,000 a year to now close to $500,000 a year in income. And and started dating for the first time in a while. Single mom, taking care of everything in the household. Now showing her son like what success looks like and what that's all about, and being the role model for him. Lost like 80 pounds. All these things happened because we step up, we take charge, we make a difference in our world. And it starts internal, shows up external, and it can change everything. Only she reflects now, she's like, well, if only I had started 4 years earlier. Why didn't I just draw the line then?
Yeah, you weren't ready.
And people say that they weren't ready. However, they didn't give themselves a chance. That most people don't know if they're ready or not. And true. I hear that a lot, and people's like, "Oh, I'm not ready." How would you know?
Right. No, that's true.
Einstein says you cannot solve the same challenge with the brain that created it.
True.
And so you're in your own head. You don't allow a lot of other stimulus. When you're in that frame of, no, I'm not ready. You haven't let a lot of people in.
Yeah.
And because of that, you're creating this arena that's isolated, that you're looking to solve the challenge that you created all in your lonesome, all by yourself in this isolated bubble. And they get lost. We all do. We get lost in our own thoughts. Mm-hmm. And without the external stimulus, without someone by your side that can see the back of your head when you can't, you'll stay in that space for a long, extended period of time, which is devastating to most people's growth.
And I think even just the people, obviously hiring someone like yourself is one piece of it, but, even just the people you surround yourself with. I mean, your friends, your, fellow business owners. I mean, you can create, if you say you don't have the money for whatever reason, like you can create your own accountability group and have like higher end people in the accountability. So you're leveling each other up versus being surrounded by people that you're like, I see that sometimes with my stepdaughter and her boyfriend, like some of the friends, some are higher level. And then some I'm like, oh, like, how do you tell them nicely? Like, you probably shouldn't be hanging out with those people, because like, that's just pulling you down instead of like lifting you up. And so then you don't see the possibilities because this person's struggling and doesn't, it's just like an endless loop of struggle. And that's what you see.
you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And most people hear that and they go, yeah. And no. Really, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And so when we talk about money, so if you're looking at just money, your income will be within 10% of the group of people that you hang out with. So if all your friends are making 50 grand, you're going to be making somewhere around $45,000 to $55,000 yourself. This is just a given. Yeah. And they've done so many studies on this and tested out yourself. The only exception to that is you might be making a little bit more when you're already in transition. So some people that are already listening to podcasts like this, they're in transition, so they might have bumped up a little. And be warned, if your income is the highest of all your friends, you're capped, you're stuck, you're stopped.
Right.
And the concept that you would be able to double or triple your income over the next couple of years is almost laughable, because you are surrounding yourself with people that are gonna pull you down. And we said, and they're like, no, my friends are supportive of me. Except, and here's where it shows up and people don't realize, you've got a major project, you've got a major client, for instance, you've got a major piece of something, effort that you've got to put forth into your business, and it's a weekend. All your friends are going out Friday night.
Yeah. Are
they going to insist that you stay home? Are they going to stay home with you and help you with work? Or are they going to tell you, come on, you need to lighten up a little. You need to blow off some steam. You need to relax a little in your life. Maybe get some balance. Come on out with us for the night. What could it possibly hurt?
Right.
They just unconsciously sabotage your future success. Mm-hmm. And people don't recognize that. Switch the scenario around. Imagine you're with 5 multimillionaires that have all built up their business and you're about to break through that ceiling. What do you think they're going to say when you say, hey, I've got this major project to do? Are they going to say, hey, Betty, you need to come out drinking with us tonight?
Right.
No.
Nope.
They will be there brainstorming with you all night Friday and all day Saturday, if that's what it takes to help you move the needle in your business. Right. Because, my buddies and I would get around the table and we talk about, how are we going to create something more? What's the next million, if you will? Yeah. And it's not about money. It's about lifestyle. It's about what you do with the money. It's about charity. It's about giving. It's about foundation. And all those things are part of our equation. I just got a text from one of my team members about a joint venture who coordinates programs for children. And we're building a foundation for bringing this type of education to our high school, junior high, and beyond, our younger generations, because we need to build the leaders of tomorrow today. Yeah. And we need to do that with a platform that is accessible to them and brings it right to the table. And so that's our discussion. Like, oh, that's great. That's a new rock, a new piece into our business. It's not about, the celebration of yesterday or sitting down and being distracted. And depending on who you're hanging out with, those things will show up.
Yeah.
So you've got to change your friends. You've got to deliberately focus in on where you're spending your time. Because if you're around grumpy people, guess what you're going to be?
Grumpy.
Yeah. If you're around excited people, guess what you're going to be? Excited. You're around people that are talking about how to build $1 million. You're going to build $1 million. You're around people that are constantly their conversation is about jealousy about other people having money and how they don't and how dare they and let's take their money away from them. That conversation will perpetuate in your life and you'll never have.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the message.
Right. Yeah. No, I interviewed earlier, I guess last year, a young woman who's, I guess she's 24, 25 now. So she came out of college. She was the president of her class at Penn State University.
Excellent.
her senior year, was trying to get a job in New York City, came out of school like in 2020. So everything shut down. Obviously, New York City was shut down. So the job she had disappeared because they weren't hiring at that point. And so she just started her own branding company. Now, both her parents were entrepreneurs, or are entrepreneurs, I should say. And obviously had a big impact on her because they were both very supportive and everything. But she moved. I mean, she was from Florida, moved to New York City from Penn State. She's like, I moved there because I could go knock on doors. She's like, I had to prove myself every step of the way, but I could go knock on doors. There was, no one knew me for being the daughter of the people down here. And she's like, I could build it myself. But I asked her about, like, did you, like, your friends, were they supportive, or are they supportive, because you figure like 20-something-year-olds, like you were saying. And she's like, well, I have created like a friends network of like early 30-year-olds that are in business and have been in business. Right. So they're kind of like the mentors and the accountability people. And she's like, I just tell my friends, if I can't go out, then I can't go out. Cause she's like, during the week I'm, working, and, I may be able to meet you at 6:00, but I'm not going to stay out till midnight because I've got meetings the next day. And so, but she had that kind of moral compass already, but I think I shouldn't say it's rare, because probably not. I just don't see those people. But, I think it's something that some people kind of, sounds like you had it coming out of college. Maybe you weren't completely dialed in as much, as you didn't have the why yet, but you still had it. And I think, it's like, how do you help the younger people then, like you said, build that earlier on, so they're not like, oh, everyone wins a medal. And I'm like,
right. There's a work ethic that I teach. My son, and I said earlier, they're some of my best testimonials. My one son, when he was 17 years old, he worked at Chick-fil-A. Mm-hmm. And so all my kids have had some form of minimum wage job, some form of and where they learned work ethic, where they went to work and created this. Now, he was on a path, was already accelerated with his learning, with what he was doing in high school, and he went to a great college, and now he works for New York Life he's getting his Series 7 any day now. He's taking the test for his Series 7 as a financial analyst. And so he was on that path. So he knew Chick-fil-A was not his future. Right. However, he got Employee of the Month while he worked at Chick-fil-A.
That's great.
Because he was one of the best guys to wash your table. Like, and reflect on that. And it wasn't about the money or about that or accolades. He almost laughed when he got it. It was about just showing up. And I taught my kids, and I teach my clientele, show up for the job that you want, not the job that you have. Yeah. Show up playing full out no matter what is going on around you. For instance, as a speaker, you'll end up in an arena where they promise you 100 people and there'll be 3 people in the room. It happened.
Yeah.
Well, what do? Do you rate the 3 people that are there? Do you show up and be a child? No, you show up and you play full out. You deliver like there was 3,000 people in the room. Yep. And you play that way everything that you do, and watch the results that you get. Watch what shows up. My son's success track and what he's done over the last 10 years in the process, it was evident when he won Employee of the Month at Chick-fil-A. Yeah. And that's really key. And for all of you, I want you to resonate with that. Are you doing your best? Are you going to work, whatever you're doing? Are you spending your day playing it full out? Are you spending the day being a level 10? Mm-hmm. Are you spending the day being the best that you can possibly be? And it's not about for the people around you. It's for you. Because once you learn how to do that and you do that consistently, the world will come to your doorstep. Yeah. And that's powerful.
Yeah. No, that's so true. So what have been some of the challenges, I know, of creating the different businesses you've had over the years? Like, what have you run into? Because, I think today, in today's world, coming out of college and creating a business is a whole lot, well, in theory, is a whole lot easier because of the internet and online and than it was when you did it, 35 years ago. So, what have been some of the challenges you've encountered, that you've overcome, obviously, since you're, so successful in where you are, what could you share about that?
For the people that are coming up now, and key components, emotional intelligence, and there's been tons of studies on this. We used to think IQ mattered. When we were younger, go back 50 years, IQ was all anyone ever talked about. How smart you were. What was your IQ test look like? And if you had a high IQ, man, you were set. You were going to create huge success. Well, what we've learned is that that's irrelevant, is that your intelligence level has no correlation to success whatsoever. That the smartest people can lose everything and have no financial abundance whatsoever, no friends, no relationships, end up on Skid Row. The people that are not so smart, not so high in the IQ component, can create amazing results and everything in between. So there's almost no correlation between IQ and success.
Right.
What they have found to be some of the key components to predict whether you're going to be successful or not is your emotional quotient or your emotional intelligence, your ability to keep your head when others are losing theirs, your ability to manage your emotions in the heat of the moment. I'm a firm believer that garbage, shit hits everyone equally, that we all get garbage in our life.
Yep.
And yet they look at some people and they go, wow, they're so lucky. Look at all that they have. Look what they do. And how come I couldn't get that break? And yet I know from my life, I can compare notes with anybody and go, yeah, well, what about this? And what about this? And
Right.
What about this? And that I've had some amazing hardships in my background and amazing challenges that I've overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start looking at that, what made the difference? How did we face those challenges and keep on moving forward? What was our reaction to it? Like I said, the speaker that shows up and there's 3 people when there were supposed to be 50. And what do you do in those moments? I saw one speaker years and years ago who showed up and there was 25 people. He thought there was supposed to be 50. And he berated the 25 people.
Oh, geez.
Totally sabotaged. And I watched from the back of the room, totally sabotaged any success he could have had from the 25 that were there because of the 25 that weren't. And that, when I watch that, and that's so much of what happens with people, and then they leave events like that. And so I'm sure he left, and later on that day, that week, that month, that year, looked back and went, oh man, that was such a disaster of an event, and blame external forces.
Yeah, exactly.
Blame the coordinator of the event, blame the marketer, blame the location, I've seen speakers blame whole cities and whole states because they didn't do well when they showed up to do their presentation.
Yep. I've seen that too.
What's the truth? What's the truth is look internal.
Yeah.
Realize that if you had showed up with a different mentality, with a different emotion, with a different approach, you would have created a different result. And so that emotional stability, emotional control, not the knee-jerk reaction, the attack, whether it's jealousy, whether it's rage, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, all those emotions when you're looking to build relationships, build business, there's no place for them.
No.
And so what do you do, and how do you take charge of that piece of your life? And then there's a second piece that is almost a newer component in our world, and they call it adversity quotient. And so it's not just about controlling your emotions, it's about what happens when the worst happens, when a huge block or barrier shows up in front of you. What is your reaction to it? And I reflect on firemen. And firemen are trained to run into burning buildings. This is not normal.
No.
Most people would run away from burning buildings. And in running towards it, they actually have to train themselves to have the emotional component that in that second, they step forward rather than back. And for most people, that's where the adversity quotient steps in, is that when they see the burning building, are they stepping towards it or are they running for cover?
Interesting.
And for all too many people in their life, they run for cover, and then once they're under the covers, might peek out a little to see what's going on. And that's how they approach life.
Right.
And in the business world, and when we measure success will go to the person, because when they peek out from under the cover, what are they seeing are the people that ran towards the fire that are already putting it out.
Yeah.
And those are the people that become the leaders of the organization, become leaders of the industry, get the accolades, get the awards, get everyone running towards them. And they're still under the covers going, oh man, that guy's so lucky.
Right.
Oh man, that should have been me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they berate the person that ran towards the fire.
Yeah.
And they don't take the responsibility to say, how could I be that person?
Right.
And so that is the adversity quotient. How effective are you at running towards the challenge when the challenge strikes? Running towards the fire when the fire hits? And the people that have the emotional control, as well as the ability to take that control and run towards the fire, are the ones that win every time. That's the equation. When you have that 1-2 punch, is where huge success happens. There's ways to sharpen that axe, ways to build those muscles, but you've got to get in the game. You've got to want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you said two interesting, you said more than two interesting things, but it reminded me of my favorite quote is life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. So that's if someone asks me for a quote, that's what I use all the time. So what you just described is exactly that. It's do you run towards it? Do you go hide somewhere? What do you do? And then the other piece you said was that personal responsibility piece of instead of blaming others or blaming, okay, there's only 25 people in the audience, there should have been 50. Now I'm not going to really do anything because I can't speak to just 25 people. It's that personal responsibility. Why not take, because now you have more intimate setting. So let's build that bond with the more intimate setting of the 25 people and maybe you get even better results with that than you would have with the 50 people. Instead of blaming, whoever you're blaming because it didn't happen the way you thought it was going to happen.
I'll tell you where this has shown up more profoundly, and it's not always about just pure dollars, business success. It shows up in all avenues of our life. In 2020, when COVID hit, my business was 90%. I was speaking out in public. Right. I was running events all around the country and around the world, all across the United States, Canada, Europe, South Africa. We were speaking all over. And I loved live events. So I was doing boot camps nonstop. And so much of this business income was generated through live, person-to-person contact. In addition, COVID changed all that. We had the instant lockdown. So 90% of my active income in the speaker world shut down overnight. Yep. The same moment, the same day almost, my wife had been diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. And she was in open heart surgery, taking a huge sarcoma out of her pulmonary artery on the 12th of March. 13th of March 2020 is when the lockdowns happened for most of the country. And so I was kicked out of the hospital while my wife was still in ICU.
Oh, jeez.
So imagine I went into the hospital like 5 days earlier. My wife had just been diagnosed with cancer. They realized she had to have basically emergency surgery, open heart surgery, huge surgery, life threatening. And I get kicked out of the hospital while my wife is still fighting for her life, and realize that 90% of our active income had disappeared in our speaker world. Mm-hmm. That's a 1-2 punch if anyone's ever heard one.
Yep.
What happened and the rest of the journey, my wife has had this nonstop fight with cancer for the last 3+ years now. And the end result is she just had another open heart surgery 30 days ago. And in doing so, that was the last piece that we cut out of her pulmonary artery, rebuilt it, wow. And God bless the doctors and saved her life. And it looks like she's good to go and survive something that was unsurvivable. 2 other hospitals had basically told her she was not going to live. Wow. And without saying it straight out, bend over, kiss your ass goodbye, and you were done. There's nothing more we can do for you. She'd gone through chemo, gone through radiation. There's nothing left. My wife makes me look calm. She is passion galore. Absolutely takes all these lessons times 10. And she never wanted to take no for an answer. She knew exactly what her goals were. Her goal was to make sure she was there for her grandchildren and was not going to accept no for an answer. And all the doctors had said, there's nothing you can do. We have nothing else for you. They're just put your stuff in order, basically. There's nothing more. We can attempt to recycle and help you 10% here, 10% there, but there's nothing that's really going to eliminate this. 3 months ago, we walked into an office and the doctor said, yeah, I can fix this. All after other doctors said, never, never, never.
Wow.
I want you to know that when you have the perseverance, when you have the adversity quotient to walk towards the fire rather than away, when you have the emotional control to manage what comes at you and then decide what you're going to do about what's happening, not react to it, but take control of it, you can create success at all corners. My wife now has a long future ahead of her.
That's great.
For living with us and seeing her grandchildren. The business that we have, we never missed a beat. We moved into virtual world. Within 6 weeks, we had live virtual events that we were doing every month that created a magnitude of results that I could not have really believed at the time. All because we had that emotional intelligence, we had that adversity quotient, and we put it to practice in all avenues of our life. This isn't just about, financial success, and isn't that wonderful? It's about how do you approach life every day?
Right.
My wife would be dead if she did not have these philosophies and this mantra in her mind. She would not be alive today.
So it sounds like you and your wife are synchronistic in that aspect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've met your wife before.
Yes. Amazing.
A couple years ago in Texas, or maybe it was a year ago. And I know the last time I saw you in Texas, which was just a month ago, that she had just come out of the hospital after the last surgery.
Right.
So,
So things are doing well. She's
awesome.
Breathing and everything is phenomenal. It was a huge success. She's actually going to be written up in all the medical journals because this was a 1% club of success rate.
Wow.
Yeah, this was major. And so all the doctors are giddy because they created this great success. But just amazing. And it's a great lesson for everybody that is in the entrepreneurial world, especially. Never give up. Never accept the answers from the outside world for them judging you, for them deciding what you should be doing, what they think your life should look like. Right. Decide what you want and go after it with a gusto, and there's nothing that can stop you. You will create success.
Yeah, you may have just answered my final question of the day since we're nearing the hour mark. So the typical answer, my typical question, which to me that was a perfect answer for that, but I'll let you decide, is if you could give one tip to someone who wanted to start a business or was newer in business that helped accelerate through your career, what would that be?
And the last piece, and I'll offer up reach out to me with an support of help. Get mentors, get people by your side, absolutely hire people to be by your side. One of the best things I ever did. And I'm a product of the product. I spent tons on coaches, trainers, speakers to find the one that changed everything for me. And that was about 16, 17 years ago, was one of my major mentors that shifted a lot of things for me. And for everyone out there, definitely find people that you can lean into that are where you want to be.
Right.
And those are the people that can support you the most to get there. And so if I can, there's an offer I would love to give out to everyone here. Maverickoffer.com and maverickoffer.com. And if we could put it in the chat or in the description, but maverickoffer.com. When you go there, there'll be a great multimedia book that I created on time management, because everyone struggles with how to get the highest and best use of their time. Only the second piece in there is you get to access my calendar for a free consult. Absolutely take advantage of it. You get access to me. Yes, it's with me directly. It's what I love to do, especially new entrepreneurs out there, entrepreneurs that have been doing this a while as well, to figure out what's the next steps, what's the tweak that you need to do to get to the next level. You're going to have access to my calendar to book an appointment, to get in there right away, and for us to talk turkey. This isn't about a sales pitch. This isn't about, making sure that you buy something. It truly is to figure out what your next steps are so that you can create the success that you so deserve.
Awesome. Thank you.
Maverickoffer.com, Paul Finck, the Maverick Millionaire.
All right. Thank you very much, Paul. I appreciate you joining me today.
My pleasure, Allison.
And thank you, everyone, for joining the Dream Plan Start Grow show. I do love working with new business owners, as well as those kind of who want to start a business. So if you do have any questions for me, please go to my website, dreamplanstartgrow.com. I do offer a free consultation and just to have a conversation, see where you're at and see where you want to go. And I appreciate you coming, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks for tuning in to the Dream Plan Start Grow podcast with Allison Turner. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. Join the Dream Plan Start Grow community by following us on Facebook or Instagram @Dream Plan Start Grow. See you in the next episode.